Don, I got a topic for you, something to think about. Who should we not let be coaches? I sit on the board for my state organization.
Yeah.
And part of coming up with something was deciding the penalty matrix for licensure, because we recently switched organizations to a different state organization, and we had to come up with what you couldn't have done and how much time needed to pass. Some things were permanent, some things were different. But what are the things that you have done in your life that restrict you from ever being a coach? Just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that.
What did you come up with? Anything good?
Oh, there is so much standing heinousness in this world. There are things that we had to put on that list that I didn't even think people with that kind of background were out of jail.
Really?
But yeah, it's mostly stuff involving children.
Oh, wow.
Because the organization that manages us also manages massage therapy, and they have a huge prostitution look on things,
Right.
trafficking in persons, things of that nature. So they just kind of brought that to the table with us. Way less focus on that, but it was the things that are included in the law just kind of make you cringe.
It says a lot about characters and values, unfortunately.
I kind of came in and tail into your comment there, Jeff, but it just goes to show that people are really inherently evil. You know, there's a lot of evil people out there.
See, I think people are inherently not evil, and the reverse happens.
I don't know. There's some scary people out there.
Yeah, but something has happened to them, and take this. Don't take this the wrong way. But there's a lot of. We all start out innocent, and it's what happens to us that generally turns us into something unacceptable. And I've become somewhat of a firm believer in that just because of some of the organizations I've been working with lately. Outside of rider training, of course.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You too, Dennis.
Thanks for that warm welcome, Ron. I appreciate that.
Oh man, you know I'd single you out just to give you that little jab. You know that.
Yeah, you hit you real good right here in the heart. Or is that stab you right good here in the heart? I'm not sure.
I just got it. I got it in there before you did. That's what you. That's
okay, that was.
Hi, Mikey.
Hi, Dad.
What's up, son?
Oh, Mike's here too.
What a scary thought.
Yeah, but I haven't started drinking yet, Dennis.
I have.
I just got home from the gym. I feel like drinking would be counterproductive to the 2 hours I just wasted.
Well, I hope you I hope you were at the gym for me as well.
I got 6 months of not being able to go there that I have to make up for.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been getting out and doing some riding as much as I can with the company I work for, and that helps out, get me active again. Of course, I'll be glad when spring rolls around too, and I can get back out and teaching, right?
Oh, will you knock it off? You know, it's all we ever hear from you. I want to teach. I want to teach, but you're not willing to go anywhere.
Well, I'll go anywhere. Where do you want me to come? You want me to come up to New York? Quit your bitching at me, Rod. Yeah, I'll come up there. Just give me a heads up.
I'll do a class with you, Dennis.
What's that?
Come on out here. I'll do a class with you.
Okay. What part of New York? Rochester?
Yeah, I've even got a spare bedroom. You can use the spare bedroom.
Yeah, what's it going to cost me though, huh?
Nothing. Parking for a Goldwing will be expensive though.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
The room is free.
Yeah, yeah. It's getting deeper around here, I tell you. Hey, Chris. Hi, Laura. How you doing?
Is that Betsy I see?
It is.
What a strange evening we have going on here when Betsy shows up. She looks cold. Laura looks cold.
I don't think Laura looks cold. I'm not sure what she looks like tonight. She looks like she's scared.
No, it's like
It is
she's
cold.
stacked up with a whole bunch of stuff there.
I got my wearing blanket on. I'm always cold, especially this time of day.
We have a strong south wind coming up here, so
The south winds are the warm ones.
well,
It's
this
those
one's
north
cold.
winds coming over the lake you have to worry about.
Usually
Is
it's
that
wicked
the
wind of
Southern
west
Hemisphere
that's
or what?
bad.
Things get cold here when we have the north winds.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess the west of us is going to get hit. Ron and you guys in Rochester, it sounds like you're supposed to get some more bad weather.
Not that I've heard.
Well, our weather guy said that area was going to get hit, but we're fine.
I'm
We have
checking.
no
You got me
snow
worried. I'm
left.
checking now.
We had that huge storm, last week, whenever it was, we had over 2 feet here in Albany, and it's all gone.
Is this the part of the conversation where I point out that it was 75 degrees today?
I think
Oh, thank you.
Jeff, who cares? I wish it was 75 here. I'm looking forward to my golf trip in end of February.
Yeah, it looks like all we're getting is a little bit of rain. Nothing exciting.
I drove through your and Ron's area yesterday and ran into about 3 different snow squalls that had me down to about 30 miles per hour.
That'll happen.
Mhm.
You on the thruway?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll
And
happen.
so you guys are way too far north because I got home. There's not even a flake of snow on the ground.
Mhm.
If
Well,
you
we're
came
just
through here, you
glad-
should have said something.
Yeah,
Well-
we're just
Buy
glad you
you
didn't.
lunch.
Yeah, I'm saying we're just glad you didn't stop, so we would be obligated to buy you lunch or coffee or some damn thing. Mike?
I considered it, but I had the whole family with me. So
That's okay. Ron would have sprung for it.
Yeah, he's good for it.
Oh, so Ron will buy me lunch when I come up there and teach. Is that it?
Sure, but the parking is expensive.
Well, I heard that part already. Yeah, for Goldwing, right? Thank you, guys.
Yeah, because that's the
Mr.
only pay you're
Tolbert.
going to get is, Dennis, that's the only pay you're going to get is lunch. So enjoy it, baby.
Yeah. Take what I can get, I guess, huh?
I see we have a few new people in here tonight. I think Mr. Haynes, haven't met you yet. Good to see your face.
Yep.
Where are you at?
I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Woo! So
Well, go ahead.
you got the warmth down there. You're almost to Austin.
Well, not even close. I'm 12 hours away and we're 7,200 feet in the mountains. So right now it's probably, well, sun's going down. So it's probably in the 30s, maybe got up into the 40s today.
Oh, that's a heat wave compared to here in New York.
Oh,
That's
oh,
what I had today in the 30s and 40s with rain.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, I'm blessed to be here. It's a lot of good stuff, although I would rather not have COVID-19 because I would be in Southern Arizona riding a motorcycle right now. So,
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'd like to introduce you to Jeff, who also has COVID-19.
Oh, no, I don't have it. I'm just
Oh.
under restrictions.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, I have both.
Oh,
We just entered stage 5 of the lockdown again here in Austin,
Oh.
where they put a curfew in place, which is fine because it corresponded with me actually testing positive for it. So now I get to take a 2-week vacation.
and I have a son in Austin, so I hope you're better soon.
Appreciate it.
And James, I don't think I've seen you in here before. Where are you from?
I'm in Northern Virginia. It's James Carlisle.
Well, welcome, sir. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks like a lot of people are jumping in on the last Tribe Talk of the year, last happy hour, huh?
Of the year. Let's
Yeah, that's
keep it
okay.
there.
It's a good way. It's a good way to end the year and start off better for next year.
I can't think of a better way than spending time with the people I love to hang out with.
Must
Even
be all those
Dave Tolbert.
$20 Amazon gift certificates you sent out, Don.
Oh, well,
I
you
never
know.
got one of those. What happened, Don?
Well, you weren't here last week, Dennis.
I was here.
Were you?
You must.
No, you left early. Or you fell asleep. Or was that Ron? One of you two fell
Rocket
asleep.
He may have fallen asleep. I've known him to do that.
Oh, Carol, be nice, will you?
I am nice.
It's always a race with Ron and Dennis. Who's going to fall asleep first?
At least he's doing it in here, not doing a demo on the range.
It all
Well, I'll
depends
be-
on whether or not we got our nap today, right, Dennis?
That is correct. I didn't get a nap today. I was too busy.
I didn't either.
I had a funeral escort this morning. The wife and I had to go shopping.
Had to go shopping?
Yeah, wife and I went to Costco.
It's on.
Oh. Well, I'm working on laying my new flooring, so I'll be in and out of the picture, but I'll be listening.
Thanks for the warning.
Close turns on.
I see, been notified we have Denise Greer here tonight. Denise, welcome. Where are you from? Seen Lynn waving.
I think Lynn's drinking something in her coffee. Is that a hot toddy or something, Lynn? She's not answering that question, is she? I mean, Laura, excuse me.
I have to,
I'm getting the names
it's
mixed up.
It's after 5 everywhere,
a
so.
gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic, okay.
It's kind of a summer drink, but hey, last gin and tonic of the year. Got to go for it.
I was gonna say, that's a summer drink, Lynn.
I had a glass of wine left over from dinner.
It's summer somewhere.
Lynn, how are you doing?
Okay, hanging out.
It's all we
Nice-
can do
nice-
this time of year.
On nice days, I go to the range and fix things, and on not nice days, I stay home and do all the stuff I didn't do over the
Like
summers.
drink more gin and tonic.
So that's a good question for y'all. I'm curious, how many of y'all do this full time and how many of y'all have actual paying jobs?
Well, that's another dichotomy there, that do this full time and it's not a paying job.
Do we have a paying job? I don't have a paying job.
I say, I used to have a full-time job.
So did I.
Right, does none of the above
You guys
count?
get paid?
As one of my bosses used to say, you get paid weekly, very weekly.
Yeah, full time here.
It's my retirement job.
There you go.
Carol, you've been retired longer than I have.
Hey, I enjoy it. My husband just joined me last year.
You keeping him in line?
Somebody's
you
got to fix
kidding?
the kitchen.
Tell Bob I said hi, Carol.
He's in the other room. I just asked him what's for dinner, and he hasn't gotten up and gone and gotten it yet.
Yeah, I got chili at my house.
I don't have a stove hooked up right now.
Well, what the hell is the problem here?
I thought she was supposed to get that yesterday or something.
You have a grill, don't you?
I do. I made biscuits and gravy on it yesterday.
Hey, nothing wrong with biscuits and gravy.
No, they turned out wonderful.
Put some hot sauce in there. They're great.
Dennis, I need to know, do you put beans in your chili?
Yes. Chili beans as well as kidney beans. And the wife said if I don't behave myself, I'm sleeping on the couch tonight.
Depends how you spell chili. No, I'm serious. C-H-I-L-I, you put beans in. C-H-I-L-E, which is what we have here in New Mexico. There's no beans in it. It's green chili and
I
pork.
spell it with an I. Put beans in it.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Put it in the crock pot late morning and let it simmer all afternoon. It tastes good.
Merlo, where are you from? Introduce yourself, please, if you can.
Hi, I'm Merlo. I'm just a recent rider coach. I think it's been over a year. I'm in Gilbert, Arizona, just a southeast suburb of Phoenix, and I'm with Team Arizona Motorcycle School.
Well, welcome, sir. We appreciate you attending tonight. As you can see, it's kind of a free-for-all, and that's the way we like it.
It's great.
Hey, Merlo, I remember you. I was your trainer's trainer in Arizona when you did your rider coach prep.
All right.
I'm the short blonde lady.
Oh yeah, you look familiar.
Welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Do you know Mark Weiss?
I know Mark from, you asked Merlo. Okay, never mind.
No, I don't remember the name. I recognize, but I can't put a face to Mark.
Yeah, Mark's the Riding Academy manager at the Harley dealership outside of Phoenix. I can't remember exactly where. That's how I went to BRCU, RCP a couple of years back.
Yes, now I remember Mark. Yes, he's over there at Desert Wind Harley Davidson. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I do know
Desert
Mark.
Wind. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of the dealership.
Yes, I do know Mark.
He's all right, I guess, since he shows up. He's so knowledgeable.
Oh, Don, you're being nice tonight. I'll tell you. You almost sound like Ron.
I'm ornery. I'm having withdrawals. And I want to put a shout out to Laura and thank her very much for running Tribe Talks last week. Excellent job.
Yep.
For those that didn't get the opportunity to see it, it's posted on the website now. Slightly edited to take out some quiet time, but not a lot of it.
She told us we had to curse every minute or two so Don had something to do. She made us do it.
I listened to it all. There wasn't one curse word in it.
Oh, we must be slacking up a little bit this group. What's going on here?
Yeah, I
As
wasn't
they say in
there.
sign
So.
language.
Well, for all the new people in here, every one of the tribe talks we've done in the past, those are the more structured discussions we have. They're available on the website. And then so are all the happy hours, except for last week's, because I haven't gotten to that one yet. And typically I'll post what we discussed in the time as the topic. So it helps you differentiate which one you want to look at if you so like to. Else it's just taking up, space on a website somewhere out there in the nether. Mary Kay, welcome.
Good to see. This is just like every other Zoom meeting I've ever been on.
What, people just going about their lives?
Can you hear me?
We can now.
All right. I was on mute. My apologies. Hi, nice to meet you.
No reason to apologize.
Running a little behind there. So just got your email.
This is all random, so no big deal. No big deal.
I wonder what 2021 is going to look like for all of us.
I think it'll look better than today.
Well, it's got to.
Got to
Just
have faith.
hoping.
Yeah, I'm sure hoping for a better year next year. That's for sure.
Without
Well,
getting
as you-
political, I'd say it's going to be a little less orange.
No comment. As you all know, at 12:01 on New Year's Day, hindsight will be definitely 2020.
Ah, Ron jokes.
Can't take credit. It was on Facebook.
Ah. What's Dave Tolbert up to?
Mostly woodworking, taking care of Christy. She had 3 back surgeries. I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
not a
to
lot.
hear. Are you being a good caretaker?
Yeah, I'd give him an A.
She said she'd give me an A
Oh, she's easy.
for ass. I'm not sure.
Yeah, ASS.
Yes.
I was thinking maybe your ears were itching, Dave, because I shared with the group your "Had a Crash to Avoid a Crash" lovely sentiment that I repeat with regularity.
I did a lot of woodworking this. I'm gonna get my ornament here. Our 2020 COVID ornaments. I don't know if you can see it.
I could see it.
Oh, it's a mask in 2020 and
Toilet paper.
that's cute. Where'd you find that?
I make them.
Oh, no way. I love them. Very good.
Hey, Dave, how's things out in Colorado right now?
What?
How are things out in Colorado?
Cold. Cold and not much motorcycle training right now.
I can understand that. It's just like here in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Wet and rainy today. And in the 30s, too.
Oh, yeah. Where is it?
You cut them by hand or with a laser cutter, Dave?
By hand, scroll saw.
Oh, scroll saw. Nice. Old school. No CNC laser for you.
No, I've thought about getting one, but I prefer to do it by hand. I don't sleep a whole lot, so at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's easier to go out and just cut.
If you could find a way to do those out of metal, they'd make a real cool side stand puck.
Oh, that's true.
No, seriously. I'd buy one.
Yeah.
Water jet.
I had a student over the summer who had a sister who's handicapped in some way and restricted in what she can do. And her sister makes a very good living for herself as a wooden jigsaw puzzle maker. And she's got a whole niche market in making replacement pieces for, people with fancy wooden jigsaw puzzles that have lost a piece and they need to have it reproduced. And apparently she's doing awesome for herself.
Wow.
Yeah, people now are looking for unique gifts. So Christmas time, stuff like that, it sells pretty good.
Well, we have a new ornament every year, and that would be a perfect ornament to add for 2020, I have to say.
Also, Christy was on Amazon, and the construct a crash scenarios. She found like all these different magnets. There's what kinds can you get?
There's the people one, the zoo animals.
That's a cool idea.
One, zoo animals,
And then the vehicles.
vehicles. We use the magnetic boards. I don't know if anybody's. It was like what, $10?
$10.
$10 for all these.
That's a really neat idea. That
Yeah,
that would really get them engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a ton of them, and rarely do people actually use them, even though they're sitting all over the big whiteboard we use.
Oh, really? We get them.
It's weird.
They love to use the magnets. Get creative.
There's always the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's true.
What's the cat's name?
There's a bunch of them running around, and dogs.
Felix, right? Felix the cat?
Felix the cat, yeah.
Or
Almost looks like he's looking over Dave's shoulder there to make sure he's doing this right.
Gonna smack me if I say something wrong.
Or it could be Top.
Top cat?
Ryan, I thought you were sleeping a little bit ago.
Yeah. Dennis, knock it off.
Why? You started it.
How you doing, Tony?
Good, I guess. Happy
Good.
New Year, everybody.
By the way, to everybody out there in happy hour, if I don't tell you right now, everybody have a good, happy New Year, safe 2021. A lot of good classes we can teach coming up. Once the schedules get out for everybody, I'm looking forward to that.
Have you been doing any ski work, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. Our mountain's open. We've got trails, 12 trails open in Connecticut. And being a holiday week, we've been busy hauling a few off the mountain.
Nothing too serious, I hope.
No, no, but you know, the whole COVID thing is a bit of a challenge. Everybody's required to wear masks on the mountain and while skiing and stuff. And we're supposed to ask certain questions when we approach people who may be ill and things, and crowds gather when somebody gets hurt, and it's just having to deal with all of that. It's a bit of a pain.
I didn't realize there's any ski slopes in Connecticut.
Oh yeah, there's 5.
Where are you, Tony? I'm curious. I'm from Connecticut originally.
Oh, I'm in West Hartford, and the mountain that I work at is in Barkhamsted in New Hartford area in the northwest corner.
And what's it called?
Ski Sundown.
Oh, okay. I guess there's a lot more there than when I was there. There used to be just Mohawk Mountain and Powder Hill, Powder Ridge.
Powder Ridge, right,
Powder Ridge.
and Southington, and there's a private one called Lake Ridge that's tied to a big community. That one's not open to the public, obviously, but yeah,
Well, that's right, Mount Southington. I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I grew up in Massachusetts. Anytime we wanted to go skiing, we went north, not south.
Yeah.
The place we used to go in high school was just a miserable place in Western Massachusetts.
Well, that could be any number of them, maybe.
We used to call it Berkshire Ice, but I think the official name was Berkshire East.
Yeah, that's actually, they've done a lot of work there, and the management or new ownership has invested a lot of money, and they've actually bought in some other ski areas, and they're making it a year-round resort with mountain biking and zip lines and other activities.
Makes sense. 30 years ago, it was miserable. You know, they used to claim, 24 to 36 inch base, and you carve a turn and you see sticks and twigs and rocks coming up. We finally figured out that what they were calling base was at the back of the parking lot where they pushed all the snow. Yeah, that was 24 to 36 inches deep.
Yeah, that's probably the marketing department for sure.
Yeah.
Ricky Copeland, is that really you, man? Maybe, maybe not. So let's talk New Year's resolutions. And I'm not talking about your typical ones. I'm talking about rider training and rider education New Year's resolution. Does anybody have any out there?
Well, I can start. I don't know if you'd really call it a resolution or not, but I'm a new coach. I just completed my training. Yay. And my goal is to do 6 classes next year, at least 6. Is that over, am I being is that too many in a year, or is that about right?
It depends on how much you like to do this
Okay.
and where you're at. If you can do 6, I think that's awesome. If you could do more, do more.
Mary
A
Kay,
lot of
where do
us
you
don't
live
have
at?
the same opportunities. It just depends on where you're at.
Mary Kay, where do you live at?
I'm in Kentucky near Louisville. So I will be teaching for Bluegrass Harley Davidson. And then I thought I might actually also maybe teach a course or two with just the basic MSF with the city government, just to kind of see what the differences are between the two.
Mary Kay, did Dinah train you?
Yes, she did.
Oh, I know Dinah. I
She's
trained
awesome.
her.
Do you know her?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
She's
Who's
very
that?
good.
See, I'm glad we get to have a conversation like this because I teach between 3 and 6 classes a week.
Wow. Okay. That's
We have a
a
guy that
lot.
taught 120 classes last year.
So
I
this
scheduled
for
to teach about
me,
30 this past year, but COVID canceled out about 15 or 20 of them.
wow. So I could, so maybe even more I could do. I work full time too. So this is not a job, a full-time income earning job for me. It's something that I'm interested in doing on the side.
Well, and once again, it depends upon your situation, the environment that you are in. There are some places that have contracts to provide so many courses, and they teach full time, and people are on salary. And then there's other places where it's just when you have enough people to fill a class. So,
Okay.
and that's kind of the beauty of being on a group like this is you get to talk to everybody in every situation. And context, I think, is what Ray would call it, is a very important thing here. So in Louisville, if you're doing 6 a year, I would say that's pretty good.
Okay.
Having been from that area for a little while.
I know I shadowed a number of classes, and they fill up really fast here. I mean, they're having them every single weekend, at least with Bluegrass, from March all the way through the end of November, and they're full every single time. So it seems to be in demand here.
Well, there's not that many courses in the state or sites in the state. So any site that is operating in a big metropolitan area like Louisville should be full all the time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You said that you had shadowed. Texas had gotten rid of shadowing. We don't want new coaches to do that because it causes them to pick up all the content drift that these coaches have picked up along the way. So they wanted to learn right the first time.
So if coaches are drifting and you don't want people to shadow, who is dealing with the drifters?
That's a sponsor problem.
Interesting.
So my shadowing consisted more of cone throwing and really paying attention to the coaching that the teacher, the coaches that were teaching the class were giving. And then in my class, when I took that, I didn't really notice that there had been a lot of drift from the MSF course content. There was some, so that's a good point that you made. But I was more, at that point in time, I was more focused on where the cone placement was for each exercise.
When you went to prep, could you tell a big difference between the people who had spent time on the range and people who hadn't?
When Yes, I could. We had one coach that had only taught a few classes, and she was paired with a very seasoned coach, and you could tell it was very evident that she was still learning and getting her wings there a little bit. So I am sure that I'm sure that I'm in that spot too right now.
I was going to say, Mary Kay, since I think you said you work full time as well, and, depending on your schedule and the availability come next spring or summer in 21, teach as many classes you feel you can handle and get better at your coaching, especially if you teach with a different coach each time. I think most everybody here would agree with me on that one.
And I've asked to be paired with the more experienced coaches, and I think that's where they want to go with me. So I'll be happy for their mentoring.
I work full time, and through the years, I always tried to gauge if I'm going to be able to give a class 100%. And after working 50, 55 hours, doing a class, doing another 55-hour week, that second class, that second weekend, are the students getting everything I can offer? And all of a sudden it's 3 weeks and you haven't had a day off.
Yeah.
So, at least for me, it's on the average once a month has been comfortable, but I fill in once in a while if somebody can't make it. But once a month kept me sharp. If I work too much, it might be diminished what you can offer.
That's very good advice. Thank you for that. I would have to agree with that, because when I was taking the course and shadowing, I had gone for a whole month without having a single day off, just trying to do the shadowing and take the class at the same time on the weekend, and it was rough. So good point.
I'm a site administrator, and it's not unusual for me to teach 2 or 3 classes a week. Then last season, because of COVID, I stepped back from that a little bit because of all the COVID regulations and things. I wanted to make sure that someone was kind of steering the ship and making sure that we were being up to date. And it was a little bit of a better balance for me to do a little bit less, as far as, keeping on track with all the other stuff I got to do. And I think I'm going to try to shoot for that again this season.
See, this brings up a good question. How many of you are solo coaches every time? You never teach in pairs ever.
Comes and goes. I've been at this since 2005, and I solo coach. I'm actually certified for 8 in the state here, and then I team coach. We do Riding Academy and MSF, and it's been interesting because the local Riding Academy went from a full-size range to a small modified. So dual coach classes the class size is limited to 8. And then with COVID, we actually have a limitation to 8 students and 2 rider coaches per class, and a lot of other regulations. But I like teaching by myself.
Mayor, do you teach, do you say that 8-to-1 or 8-to-2 ratio? Is that a compact range with 2 coaches?
Well, the 8-to-2 is a compact range. Yeah, it's
okay. Because one of the sites I teach at is a compact range. Sometimes it's 6-to-1. Other times, if there's enough of demand, we do 8-to-2.
Sure.
And this past year we did 8-to-2 because the first 20 classes, like from March through late May, were all canceled, and everybody wanted to try to get them made up. But I agree with you. I do like teaching by myself. I run a 6-to-1. You can control the speed of the class depending on the students and how they're doing.
Yeah, well, I've done single coach on a full size range, and I've done it on the compact range, and it definitely is easier on a compact range. There's just less running around to do.
Yeah.
But also, one of the things that happens in our state is when people want to become rider coaches, they have to observe X number of classes. There's a 60 question pre-course, a pre-test that they take when they show up for RiderCoach prep. So a lot of times I can have somebody who's a quote unquote range aide who I can hand a set of cards to, and we use a consistent color system. So anybody from any range in the state has the same color code to look at. So it's, you know, it's structured flexibility. That's the name of the game. Have you guys been seeing all the VRET stuff that's been on for some amount of time? Yeah, good stuff. It's good to go through the RiderCoach guide and to see all that stuff again. It's I hear people talking about drift, and you know, when I started in 2005, it was Writer's Edge and BRC, and then it just finished the MRC RSS, and you know, things got so far afield in the early 2000s, mid 2000s with a regular BRC. And I think that when they rewrote the curriculum, they just wanted to structure things a little more. It's pretty interesting. Adult education is pretty interesting. That's all I can say.
So Jeff, this is Belinda from Alabama. My first year, I did a lot of dual coaching for MSF state class, but when I mostly did, I guess I did all Harley this year, dealership work, and I did solo coaching, but we were very purposeful as our team because I swapped between 3 different places, but we were very purposeful about going out during the summer and helping with other coaches because it is super, super hot down here. But
Sure.
yeah, I coach a lot of solo. Yeah.
I do a mix, you know, dependent on what, you know, who else is available to coach and how many students there are. I've got 2 ranges side by side. So if we're short staffed, I can, and short studented, I can move on to the compact range and do 8 to 1. And if we've got people to teach, we can be on the full size range, and sometimes we're on both ranges.
And that compact range you're teaching, you do 8 to 1 there or coaching?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, because like as I was telling Merle before with the compact range I teach at Big St. Charles, we get up to 8 students, they put in a second coach just to make it a little easier on us. But that way it makes it go a little smoother, I think.
Yeah, with the state here, it's 6 to 1 is the ratio for 98% of the coaches in the state. But there are a couple of us who have been at it a long time who can do 8 to 1 if we really need to. 6 to 1 works. I still like 2 coach classes. You know, it's there's just a lot going on, and you know, to do a, I don't know, to do a thorough, you know, what Ray is saying is, you know, student outcomes are the most important thing, and to have the best riders that people can be. And man, 2 coach classes, I think, really support that. 1 coach class, 6 to 1, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot to keep track of for sure, you know.
You see, you made my point right there. That's a pretty good idea to point out. When I get coaches who are from out of state, because you know, despite what you may think, Texas only has a couple full-size ranges in the entire state. Real estate's kind of at a premium, especially in the metropolitan areas.
Sure.
And I don't know if you guys have ever tried to pave enough asphalt to put a course on, but it's prohibitively expensive unless you've got, you know, some deep pockets.
Yep.
But then there's almost no way to recoup your assets because a lot of the times the state puts a limit on what you can charge, especially for a for-profit business. What I found is I don't particularly like coaches who teach in teams. They have poor range control. They turn their back a lot. They assume the other coach is watching all the time because they get used to teaching with 2 people. But as soon as you put them by themselves and they're not used to that, you're right. They lose a lot of range control, and there's a lot of things for them to learn. So it's different if I bring them up in the way that they came up as an individual coach, learning to watch everything, kind of like a kind of a poor analogy, but like a prison guard. You know, you never let them go behind you. You never let them where you can't see them. You're always watching.
I've had a couple of, I'm sorry, I've had a couple of coaches comment to me that the best thing I ever did for them was to put them on the compact range, because it pointed out to them right away where their shortcomings were as far as observation and evaluation, that they realized, oh, I've got to do all of this now. And it kind of adjusted their mindset a little bit.
Yeah, the you know, the hallmark is even when you're coaching someone, you've got to have your head and eyes up and be looking from that corner across the range, even though you're talking to someone else. I mean, I do NQC stuff for Harley Davidson, and the biggest thing that I see on ranges with two coaches is exactly what Jeff is talking about. And it's not that people are lazy or anything else. It's just easy to get into that spot with two coaches to make the assumption the other person is watching. Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, one of the worst things I ever seen someone put on an incident report after a crash was, I didn't see it.
Yeah, no witnesses. Oh yeah. Well, and you know, both styles have their shortcomings. I did an NQ in where was it? It was in Colorado, actually, yeah, in Grand Junction. Great dealership, good program, and the rider coach was a young guy who was really committed and, you know, really kind of on the ball. And when we went out to observe the range, I'm standing there with 5 students, and he went out to do a demo of the exercise, and he just basically hauled butt through the whole thing. I mean, it was blazingly fast, and 3 of the students said, "Do I have to ride that fast?" And I said, "Well, you know, no, you need to be at a comfortable level and what works for you." And I mentioned it to the rider coach during a debrief, and he goes, "Wow," he goes, "I never would have thought that." He goes, "I only teach single coach classes." And so I never got that feedback from students, because I do a demo and come back and we'd start the exercise. And so if students aren't willing to speak up, then, you know, that becomes an issue there for a single coach class as well.
One of the things here in Missouri that we are constantly reminded of, and constantly reminding each other, do it at the speed that you expect your students to do the exercise.
Yep, absolutely.
Ooh, that could be dangerous. I want them to go faster.
Hey, I don't agree with Carol too often, but I have to agree with her on this.
So I agree. My thing is, whenever talking about riding demos, we need to be able to ride them expertly at a beginner pace. You know, we had a situation where we had a coach that I was with that would, man, just blow through them, and they had the exact same thing. And I was like, hey, how about we do that one more time, man? You know, I think I might have missed something while I was talking to them. Could you do that one more time, just a tad bit slower for me? And so I didn't say, hey man, slow your behind down, do it again. I was just like, you know what? I think I might have missed something. Could you run that just one more time for me so that I could go back through this with them? And it kind of helps to remind some of the coaches that, hey, yes, we are, you know, we've been riding a long time, but we do need to slow it down to their pace. And so.
Yeah, we call that velvet daggers. You're killing them softly.
I mean, just personally, I think one of the main reasons I like rider coaching is that it keeps me in touch with the basics, the fundamentals, you know, and I've been riding a long time. I'm a road racer. I ride off road. I do a lot of stuff. And so it's really easy for me to get off in the weeds, if you will, with that whole process. And so I really like teaching, because it's getting that attitude.
Awesome.
Hey, I'm gotta do it.
Herrheimer, did you used to have some face warmer?
Do tell, what is a face warmer?
Look at John Davis's picture.
I think it's a beard. Food catcher.
Look at Peter Velos's picture.
Not in my life.
What? I'd lost so much respect for you. I naturally assumed you were just as grizzled as I am.
That's okay. You'll get over it because I already did. But yeah, I can imagine, Jeff, listen to your stories about this is because you've taken so many shots, and I'm going to shot off the bow. People from Illinois that come to Texas that want a vacation. You have a tough road to hoe, sir. But I get that how if with coaches, if two people are on a range, you depend on each other. Sometimes you look at it and go, they got it. I get that could be a hurdle. I think for a lot of us, teaching on our own, the biggest step for me was that one day when we figured out that there was only so much money in the pot and we had to go to the operation of 6-1 on a full-size range. And wow, that's a walk quickly. So, but definitely a great learning tool for myself. And I assume the other coaches, but they probably, called me names under my breath and also to my face because they're my friends about making them do that. And my answer was, well, guys, either we can have some money or we can have no money by canceling all these classes. And luckily, the students turned around eventually, but that was the nature of one season in doing such a thing. But yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls with two coaches versus one coach. And I also see the challenge with feedback. So somebody mentioned, I think it was Murray talking about students asking, do I have to go that fast? I had that happen to me in a class, and that soundbite made the news that night. And my wife said, so you were riding, huh? I'm like, yeah, maybe. Could have been. So I've been on the receiving end of that, and I'd like to say that I slowed it down. Rita, am I at reasonable student pace some days? Have I slowed it down a little bit?
You're wonderful now, Jason. And I would never mumble under my breath. I would never mumble under my breath about things you do. I say it right to your face.
And I appreciate that tremendously.
So earlier, somebody said something about incident reports. What is described as an incident where you're at?
Anytime anything other than the tires on the motorcycle or the student's feet are on the ground.
Does that include side stand?
They can, if they forget to put the side stand down in the staging area and fall over, we write an incident report. The reason I say that is a number of years ago, I actually had a doctor in a class who fell at low speed, state class, so he got his leg under the motorcycle. We got him up, had a conversation. He said, oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine, and no problem, and let's keep going. And he finished the class. 6 weeks later, he called me, and I'm filling out an insurance claim because he had hairline fractures in the, I guess, tibia bone on the leg that was underneath. And all he said was, yeah, my leg kept bothering me. And I finally went and got an x-ray and found out I had a broken leg. So we write everything up. And I've been to court 3 times over the years, and writing a good incident report and having good stuff in place in terms of what your policies and procedures are and following them will save you a fortune, both personally and program wise. It's really important. There's my soapbox.
The video.
So if the foot peg drags the ground as they go around a turn accidentally, is that an incident report?
No, well, not in New Mexico. And it depends. If they're riding a street 500 and they actually use not the best path to travel, then they're probably going to drag something like an orange bar or whatever. But yeah, feet or tires, that's the thing.
And I add to that, if there's a close call that involves superhuman strength to hold the motorcycle up, or
Yep.
if they do the, you know, I've jammed my foot into the ground to hold the motorcycle up, anything that could maybe come back and bite you in the butt as a potential injury, I'd rather have it documented. You know, just in case, you know, it comes back and haunts us.
Well, I think,
What
you know,
about if the one class that I was actually shadowing, the coach actually dumped the bike? Does that get written up too?
Absolutely. Been there,
Okay.
done that. Sorry to say.
yep. Well,
We
no,
had an incident where there was someone actually walking up the stairs to go into the classroom and their foot got twisted, sprung their ankle. That got written up.
you bet. You bet. I've been a site coordinator for the state, and I've been an academy manager over the years. And one of the struggles was getting rider coaches to write up the incident reports. And it always becomes an issue because I would go out and observe people and actually ask the coaches, are you going to write that up? And so, you know, MSF would like, MSF says one incident is too many. And if you're having incidents on the range, where are you shortchanging your students? What's the responsibility with that incident? And I'll say truthfully, if I'm producing a class with incidents, the first thing I have to do is step back and say, well, did I spend enough time on exercise too? So that person has clutch control. That, you know, where was I lacking in what I provided for that student that created those incidents? I mean, granted, they happen sometimes. Somebody has a brain fart, they grab the front brake, they have the handlebars turned, but still, gotta say, to me, again, personal opinion, those are all preventable incidents that if we're paying attention as rider coaches and doing our jobs, hopefully we can move to the place where that's all minimized. Anyways, second soapbox, I apologize.
So question on the incident reports. Do all the incident reports also go back to the MSF organization and are compiled so that they use that information to strengthen the criteria or the curriculum? What went right, what went wrong? Do we need to change up this exercise to prevent this particular thing? Because we're noticing that this is happening multiple times across the country with different courses, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Well, I think with the MSF, as a site coordinator for the state, all of my incident reports went to the MSF office in the state, and they sent them on to California from there. With the Riding Academy, I was responsible for sending all of the incident reports directly to the MSF, but we also reported all of our classes through the MSF RES system. So there was a lot of tracking going on there.
Okay.
You see, in Texas, we don't have any reporting requirement to MSF unless we use them for insurance. And as
Right.
far as I know, none of us use them for insurance.
Yeah. It's different every state, you know, I mean, it's what works for you locally. The only thing I can say is the more you write down and record and put in a file somewhere, the more you're protected. It's sort of like the COVID rules that MSF came out with. I got an email from Irvine that basically said if we weren't following not only the MSF guidelines, but the state guidelines, and we had a student come up with COVID that they could trace back to the class, that we wouldn't be insured. We would be on our own because we were off curriculum. Harley's had a much kind of different approach to that. They've let every dealership make, you know, go along with whatever they need to do based on their own decisions.
Mary Kay, our incident reports go to our state administrator and also the insurer, whoever that may be. But, you know, on the state end, we use those incident reports in our QA process to determine what elements might be fodder for professional development, you know, when we get around to our workshops and things, to see where are the holes, where are problems happening and things that might need to be addressed. And as a site administrator, I get pissed off if I come to the range and I see a bike that's busted and there's no incident report explaining why that bike is busted. Doesn't take a lot to set me off, but that's one of my hot points.
Sure.
So a story about incidents at one of the states that I worked at. I was fortunate enough to get enough of the data and was able to do an analysis. And the analysis was that looking at all the sites and all the incident reports, what was reported, knowing that there was probably not everything reported that should have been. And the analysis of it worked out that every site in every class had at least 1.5 incidents. So I had to do some heavy thinking in that state at the time and question why there were so many incidents. And if I was a parent who had a child who was going to a driver ed class of any kind and had a 1 in 12 chance of having an incident, why would I send my children to that kind of class? Why would we expect any student to be expected to have an opportunity of 1.5 out of 12 to be in some sort of incident, regardless of how serious it was? And so after the analysis of that, and I say this because Mary Kay brought up the question about, does this get analyzed? It should. It does when it is reported and reported properly. And like Lynn said, if you have a really good QA program that takes this into consideration, it really drives the force on what professional development should be for whatever organization is looking at it hard. And I know that I'm not speaking for MSF, but I've seen in the past that MSF has looked at incident reports and used it in their professional development and actually changed some things in the curriculum just because of the risk that was developing with people having incidents. Off of my soapbox.
So I'm sitting here listening and I'm thinking about spending 15 years of going to different classes. I worked in the Army and was a safety coordinator in the Army, so I would attend a lot of the classes, not as a coach, but as a student. When you say 1.5 incidents per class, and somebody else made the comment that that's even a hard muscling the bike up. To me, that rings true. I mean, the natural resting point of a bike is on its side. I'm trying to figure out how you get away from less than one. To me, one makes sense.
I've had so many classes, I've gone weeks or months without any incidents on a site. And that's what's expected, because if you're having an incident, regardless of the severity of the incident, it means we missed something. We weren't predicting what could happen with our students. And so if you're familiar with Army and aviation, James, one crash is too many. one bent wing, one broken landing gear, one bent strut is too many. And so we know it is not a zero effect thing that we do here, but it should be our goal. And in that particular state, it wasn't a goal. And I happen to know from the reporting that I did look at that they weren't reporting everything. They were only reporting the serious incidents where somebody actually went, had to seek medical treatment, which scared me even more. scared me even more.
Yeah, well, here in New Mexico, from RiderCoach prep on up, we emphasize the first 4 exercises. If you're spending appropriate time in the first 4 exercises and splitting them up appropriately, exercise 2 is a great example. People will do the rocking for a little bit. They'll do the paddle walk back and forth across the range a couple of times, and it's time to pick your feet up and ride. And I don't know, according to Ray, you want to spend 50 to 60% of your time on part 2. So you ensure that those people have clutch control. So what I say to coaches here that I mentor and go through RCP with is that, do the first 4. If you're having incidents where people are stalling in the beginning of the second day or the end of the first day, or people are going through stop and drops or whatever, that usually gets traced back to the first 4 exercises and how much time and effort you put into those with the students.
I'll take exception to that. I think you also have to factor in fatigue and overload.
Sure.
As the course and the program goes on, and weather and heat and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've seen classes where excellent riders start coming apart at the end of the day only because it's been an extra long day, and that's when you really have to throw in maybe an extra rest break or just calm things down a little bit. And then also sometimes riders get overloaded. They might be good on a few exercises, and then their arousal level goes beyond what is prudent for learning and education, and they get into that mode where they're acting out of fear and a higher stress, and the simple things become difficult. So.
But with that, Tony, even when they become tired, when the stress starts to hit, the first thing that happens is the one thing that we didn't spend enough time on. Their weakest point will show when fatigue sets in.
Well, okay, but I mean, bear in mind, and I remind myself this all the time, that every student in every class is supposed to meet the expectations of that exercise before they move on. So if you've done exercise 2 for 35 minutes and you're seeing a student at 35 minutes still doesn't have any concept of controlling the clutch, I gotta say, in my case, that's time to have a conversation with that individual about what they're doing. And that helps prevent that whole exhaustion thing at the end of the day. I think so many times, Harley says counsel on as opposed to counsel out, but it's the same process. And, part of it, again, it's safe, effective, and efficient. If somebody's not meeting that criterion, is it really okay as a rider coach to let them continue to say, oh yeah, they'll pick up the clutch in exercise 3? And I see that a lot. I see
it might be a normal day though, and that fatigue or dehydration kicks in just because of the conditions. It's really hot out, or there's other challenges going on. And I know as a new coach, I wasn't always on top of what the students were experiencing. I can think of a lot of occasions where I was out there tossing down the cones for the next exercise, and my seasoned cohort was there shaking their head like, no, we are done, and sure. Part of it is recognizing that when your good students start to make those little stupid mistakes, like not putting the side stand down, or not squeezing in the clutch when they stop, that's a tip off to you that things are starting to head south and it's time to reevaluate.
You say that about the side stand. We did I don't know what the Army called it, MRC, or it's the sport bike class. Not the basic class, but the advanced rider class.
Oh yeah.
And
good class.
So yeah, it's a great class, but it's my command sergeant major and we had visited Fort Bliss, Texas, and we are participating in this class with the students out there. And we have been just going head over tea kettle for weeks on end. Not enough sleep. We've ridden our bikes cross country to get them there. We're on day 2. Have been meetings all day the day before. We're at the end of the day, and we park the bikes in the staging area and walk over for the debrief. And as we turn our bikes and walk away, we hear this crash, and my command sergeant major stands up straight. He knew right away that was his bike. He had forgot to put his side stand down on this gorgeous hot rod bike that he had built up himself. He's the command sergeant major of the safety center for eastern region of the Army. Not cool, but we were tired. We shouldn't have been out there. So
are you still in, James, or are you?
No, I retired in 15.
Okay.
I'm a 5th grade school teacher now.
Congratulations.
Probably for my last year. I'm probably gonna quit doing that and just gig economy for a while now. And my wife is also retired now. She's now a senior civilian in the Pentagon for the JAG Corps.
Awesome. So you're in
James,
Virginia,
fifth,
right?
I am.
Hey, James. So 5th grade teacher and Army, pretty
Yep.
much the same thing. Pretty much the same thing. Like,
Yeah, well.
yeah. So yes, nowadays it's the same thing.
5th graders tend to write a little better than my majors did in the Pentagon. So.
That's true.
Amen.
So one of the things that I chose to do a number of years ago with regards to the incident report was create a Google form that basically mirrored MSF's requirements or what they asked for on it. So I could easily, put that into an MSF form as a site administrator. And I was lucky enough to have the few people that were willing to fill out a incident form easily tag that out on their phones in 15 minutes. And then, of course, we could get more in depth later. But the biggest part is being able to generate a report off that. Thank goodness, one of our actual administrative assistants at the college showed me how to do this magic called the mail merge that I didn't know about. I do now, and it works great for generating reports, getting everything done. And I know that our state would really like to see a report from every site, every time, all those criteria that you guys talked about. Anything but the rider's feet hit the ground. We want to hear about it. And the good guy says, yeah, we need to evaluate, what could we do wrong? How could we change the curriculum? The truth is, A, you can't control the students, and B, if you're following the curriculum, it's probably pretty gosh darn close anyways. As somebody that's really smart has repeatedly reminded me, we can only control what comes out of our mouths, not what they hear. So do the best you can with the students. And as far as one of the things I heard a lot was filling that out, it's protecting yourself. I don't know what you think you're protecting yourself from, because it doesn't matter how many waivers we have, what we're going to tell them up front. It blows my freaking mind that in your instance that doctor sprains his ankle and then has fractures, that somehow we're paying the bill. And I know we all have insurance, and I saw the new REIRP thing that came out that said, hey, you're going to have this many $1 million of liability insurance. You're going to have $10,000 of dental coverage. Holy shit, dental coverage? But we do. But we tell people that if you've read the waiver, it basically says you could do anything up to die here. And you know this, and you're doing it anyways, and they're going to come back to us and say, yeah, but, I chipped my tooth, so here's the bill. I'm trying, like everybody else is, to reduce your risk. My take has been, if you're taking a basic class, you're going to wear a full face helmet, because I'd like you to have teeth when you're done, assuming you came in with them, of course. For the other folks, for the beyond basic class, you got a license. If you come in with a half helmet and you want to take an advanced class, Jesus, of the 3% of my total student count that might come back for a beyond BRC class, I'm just happy to have them. I'm not going to tell them they have to wear a full face helmet or else. I figured they got there on their own, probably going to be okay. Documentation totally matters. Just so the site administrator is not caught blindsided by something that happens and you call a coach, or you happen to be the coach that's called that says, hey, do you remember this guy? And you're like, oh yeah, you totally ate it on exercise 8. You're like, exercise 8's a demo. It's a show and tell. What happened? And then you have a long drawn out story. And without the documentation, now as a business, of course, you're on your heels. So at least have something, we hope, because it's really helping the business survive to the next day. And assumably you go to the business to get a paycheck. I know some of you are volunteers. I know some of you are voluntold, but I assume most people go to the business, you get a paycheck. Throw a guy under the bus. Mr. Tolbert, what's the worst thing that you've ever had happen at one of your sites that you've had to deal with from a legal aspect that you wish one of your coaches did something different?
Knock on wood, since I've owned the company in 2007, we've never had anything legal. The site I worked at before I owned this company had a fatality on the range. I saw the court case that lasted about 3 years and got to sit in on some of the testimony, and it was pretty brutal. But so far we've had nothing.
The first thing the plaintiff's attorneys are going to do in discovery is ask for paperwork, incident reports, repair orders, waivers. That's just SOP if you go to court. And all I can tell you is if you've got your ducks in a row on that level, it takes a certain amount of pressure off and moves it in a direction. You know, if you can say, well, this is our policy, this is our procedure, here are the reports, this is how we do things, here's the range cards, and you just go down the line, it becomes a more manageable situation. Going to court's never fun, I can tell you that. So
I was talking to one of the Law Tiger attorneys, and he was talking about the incident reports and how important they are. He said, if you have that paper, because statute of limitations, at least here, is 3 years that they can come back and sue you.
Yep,
and by then you've probably forgotten what happened. He says, if you don't have that incident report, he says, I, as the attorney, can make up whatever story I want. And I'm going to make it favorable to my client. And he says, that's what I'm good at. He says, but if you've got that incident report, it's hard for me to make up what's in that incident report.
I agree with all of that. And having the paperwork in place, if you've got all that paperwork in place and you're, you know, I had an incident that went as far as depositions, but the attorneys that were hired were one of these pay-as-you-go attorneys. You know, if they win the case, they make some money. If they don't, they don't. And they realized that they weren't going to get anywhere because we had all our stuff together, and our testimony, you know, regarding the incident was solid and unwavering, and we weren't going to budge on it, and they just walked away from it. And I'd say also that, you know, to encourage your coaches to fill in this paperwork, the more of it that you can pre-fill in advance, the location, the address, you know, owners of the bike, all that stuff, it just makes it easier on your coaches. And if you can do that, help them out.
Okay, then I want to add to that. How do you protect your site, or however you guys want to refer to them, the people who actually hold the contract to conduct the training, not the coaches? How do you protect them from coaches?
Can you clarify that question?
Well, you guys said earlier, one of the coaches had went down on the bike. The coach believes he sustains an injury, turns around and sues you for it.
Isn't that a workman's comp claim?
Only if they're employees. We don't have employees. They're all contractors and subcontractors at that. They're all 1099.
That would probably be a question for a site manager then.
It doesn't involve me, but I, you know, heard about this, you know, from another site where a rider coach tripped on the range and suffered an injury, and ended up, and it resulted in a loss of work at the site and also their regular employment. And they ended up suing the site, the college that they ran their business at, et cetera. And they were claiming that, well, there was a crack in the pavement and this wasn't fixed and I should have done. And, and my personal feeling on it was, well, you're the rider coach. You're the one that's saying this range is okay to use on this day. So why didn't you say there's a crack here and we shouldn't use the range? And there were circumstances and stuff. And I don't actually know the outcome. The coach in question had some health issues and passed away before it all got resolved. So I don't know if it got resolved or where it would have gone. But, I kind of felt that in this case, the coach herself was at fault for not having called out the problem that she was citing as the issue. So
Just a personal opinion here, Jeff, and that's all it is. It is what it is. If you're a business owner, a site owner, and you're either hiring people in on a contract or however you may do it, you have an obligation to yourself to set up your site and protect yourself as best you can. When you first mentioned this, my first thought is, why am I hiring somebody that I don't trust? And we don't really know that when we hire people, because sometimes the bad person comes out when bad things happen. But certainly, if you own a site, you have to look at every legal avenue that you can to protect your business, because not only is it affecting you, but it's also affecting your family, anybody you hire, anybody that they have in their families. So, owning a site has a lot more depth than just saying, well, I'm gonna be a business owner. And if you are one, you know what you go through with legalities and permits and certificates and getting approval to buy things and taxes and things of that nature. This is just another one of those check boxes that you have to make sure you're covered on. And usually it's through having insurance on the site, I believe.
Yeah, Jeff, on my business, my answer was make them all employees. And I know that there's that potential that somebody gets hurt, there's a workman's comp claim, like Laura said, and that could totally happen. But on my end, I think I'm better served that way than having a turnaround in our case. And I suspect this is a Wisconsin specific thing, because I hear so many people, well, even other sites in Wisconsin are like, oh no, we 1099 everybody. And I looked at the guidelines and went, I'm going to be in more trouble by trying to make them contractors when legally they're not, and have better protection for those employees. The other thing, if you are a 1099 employee, for all of you that are not site owners and not employees really, but contractors, have you looked at personal liability or professional liability insurance for what you did? Because if you are a contractor and there is a lawsuit, let's just say you were my contractor, which I don't have any for this reason. I'm not covering a damn thing when you get sued. You get sued as a contractor, it's on you. And with most of us that do not have contractor and LLC set up to be a contractor, which I hope if you're going down that road, you might consider, there's a lot of personal stuff that becomes involved in that court case, which is a big deal. So being that I looked at what it takes in Wisconsin to be considered a contractor, one of those things is having a $2 million professional liability insurance policy. Yep. And that's to get out of the idea of paying workman's work comp pool insurance. Was anybody that's a contractor that I paid, I had to turn in a $2 million liability insurance policy for said contractor, which is why I wiped that off and made everybody employees. But if you don't have that stuff, personally, well, I don't want to say you're asking for it, but you're sure as hell not protecting yourself. And it scares the crap out of me when I talk to many people, especially the folks around me that are riding academy instructors. They're all 1099, every one of them. And they have no idea what they're signing themselves off on. And they have no idea, most of them, what even the MSF waiver says. So protecting your own butt's a big deal for the business owners. Don's right. There's so many things that, heck, I found out the hard way. Didn't know, and like, hey, I'll buy some bikes, we'll do a business. Now I knew I had to pay taxes, but I've certainly had a very steep learning curve in the last 2 years coming off of college doing this on my own. If you're worried about this, yes, you need to have your own insurance. There's no two ways about it.
Did an official IRS determination. They came in and it took about a year to determine whether our coaches were contractors or employees. And I've got about a 15-page document from the IRS that says no way, no how are rider coaches 1099 contractors.
And in New York State, if they're part of a driving school, they have to be employees. They don't have the option.
Yeah.
So
that ends up being a state by state thing. I ran a trucking company in Texas, and it depended on whether or not I was full-time employing the truck drivers, whether or not they were interstate or intrastate, whether or not they were allowed to drive for other trucking companies. So, you know, where I am, I work for 3 different companies as a rider coach. One of those companies has me as an employee. 2 of those companies have me as a contractor. Not sure which one is more correct. As a trucking company owner in Texas, I would tell you that the more correct one was contractor, but that's just because that's the way the laws worked there.
Right. Now I'm up against the same thing with that, as James said. My liability is greatly increased with employees as well as all my other burdens by the way the Texas laws are written. So everyone's brought on. Now I do have one employee because, like James alluded to, we do control their time. They do work full-time situation. As we're a rider coach, your average rider coach works 15 hours a week. It's very hard to construe that as anything other than part-time at very best, and they may go months without actually working because of, you know, their ability to choose when they do and do not want to work.
And so this just highlights not only for site managers, but for rider coaches to, you know, find out what kind of situation you are in, where you're being employed, how they're dealing with it, if you're an individual contractor or an employee, because you can find yourself in a bad situation really quick. Now, odds are that things won't happen. Just like the incident report form, I see, you know, Mike made a statement. If you have an incident report, it's probably because it's going to happen. But that doesn't mean you want it to happen. That doesn't mean it has to happen. It's just there for when bad things do happen. And if you're going to be an employer or a contractor, you have to know what boundaries you may be underneath so that you are taken care of appropriately. It's a lot more than just RTFC, isn't it?
So two big takeaways that I'm going to follow up on after this is, number one, to get insurance for myself, which I planned to do anyway. That was counseled to me. And number two, ask the guy that, you know, the dealership that I'm working with, is, if I were to be injured on the range, how am I covered? How am I protected?
Not only that, but, you know, how are you protected under the state program if you're doing coaching outside of the dealership?
Okay.
So are you covered? I don't know if they still call it KMP, Kentucky Motorcycle Program, or if that has changed with the reorganization. But you need to know, are you covered underneath the state if you work, you know, under the umbrella of a private site in the state?
And in New Mexico, we're a MSF managed state, if you will. And so the people that teach for the state are part-time employees of the MSF, and the paychecks that we all get come from Irvine, California, even though we're in New Mexico. The dealership here decided, they went back and forth, and in New Mexico anyway, it made more sense for them to make all the rider coaches part-time employees. so I do other kinds of coaching here and there. And to get back to Jason, in those instances, I have a $3 million liability policy that covers me those situations where I'm either self-employed or I'm a 1099 person. So, yeah, I got to sign off, folks. It's time for me to help with dinner. Let me thank everybody. I really enjoyed like listening in and participating here. So hope to make it on a regular basis. And yeah, no, have a happy new year. I can only wish the best for everybody here, but thanks again for letting me participate. I'll see you hopefully next week.
I hope so too. Murray, before you go, please, we are big about inviting more people in. So the more people, the better the conversation. And the bigger the tribe gets, the more the tribe knows. So welcome, absolutely, and bring your friends.
I will do that. I can think of several I'm going to forward the email to for the next one. So
And while we're discussing it, not to hold you up anymore, but if they aren't subscribed already, they can subscribe on the site and they'll get the emails with the links.
Cool.
Murray, thank you. Your input was really, really valuable to me. Thank you.
Yeah,
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I do a lot of QA work, so it's real easy for me to get my soapbox out. So we'll see you guys later. Bye.
It's okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so
this is why we can't have nice things.
I guess. Rita brought this up earlier because there's a whole bunch of new people on here tonight. The whole reason we started happy hour was to just kind of get used with the technology besides having these great conversations. So if you're new and you haven't played around with Zoom much, feel free to do so. There is the ability to raise your hand. If you go to the bottom of your screen, either on the chat, you can raise your hand. Yeah, Jeff's got his up there. You can kind of see what it's like. Steve's got his. So go ahead and play around with the technology a little bit.
Hey, Don, I want to tell you a funny story that just happened to me a month or so ago.
Go ahead.
You get a kick out of it. Have you ever dropped a student in exercise 1?
Yes.
So the rule was, yeah, no kidding. The rule was, right, you try to get them through 4 exercises and then the determination is made, right? They don't have it. They're not going to get it. They need more remediation. They need to sign up for something different. I've never dropped a student in exercise 1 because we complete the classroom portion first and then we move on to the range. It's all done in chunks for our scheduling purposes. But I had a student about a month ago who fell off the motorcycle in exercise 1 with the kickstand still down. He fell off the kickstand side. The bike didn't fall over. He fell off the motorcycle.
Is that a balance issue?
It was something issue, let me tell you. He fell off the left side of the bike from the very first mount and landed on his shoulder. He was 18 years old, taking it with a buddy. And I just figured he just lost his balance or he tried to reach for, the shifter or I don't know, something weird. And he slipped
You mean
off.
he mounted and just kept going?
Yep, he mounted and just slid right off and landed on his shoulder.
Oh boy.
Yeah, try to imagine this.
legal here, so we have that problem.
Yeah. So, it's all this, not an alcohol thing, not a drug thing. It just slid right off the seat. And then he mounted. We moved on to the next part. And he swept the side stand. And this time he pulls the bike down with him on the same side. He crashed twice in exercise 1. And at that point, I had made the decision to take the key out of the bike and wish him the best of luck in his new Miata purchase.
Why is it a rule that you wait until exercise 4 before you decide to counsel someone out? I'm just curious about that.
Not a rule,
Okay.
just an idea that
Okay.
you let them, if they can demonstrate the basic skill up to that point, then they're allowed to continue up to that point. But by exercise 4, if they're still showing any sort of inconsistencies, then that's the end of it for them.
So we actually had an interesting conversation with one of my coaches in that I was shadowing in one of my classes early on, and they had counseled out a student who could not had a major balance issue similar to what you're talking about, and they thought maybe this person didn't know how to ride a bicycle, and that's been a problem before. But apparently this person had a massive weight loss, had bariatric surgery, and I guess it's a known issue that people that have had bariatric surgery and have had a massive weight loss, it takes them a couple of years for their brain to retrain, and they have balance issues. And I'm wondering if maybe that could be what this person's issue was.
No, he had just turned 18, taking it with a buddy. No other outlying issues. And I had chatted with him, and he wasn't shocked. He wasn't upset. He was like, okay. And then he had to go sit in the truck and wait for the next 4.5 hours for his buddy to finish the class so they could go home together.
We had a bariatric student, but it wasn't known to us that was the case. And he struggled, throughout day one. He met the objectives, but he was awkward. And at the end of the day, the coach I was teaching with, he and I were discussing it, and we're like, wow, what are we going to do with this guy? What's going on with him? And he said, it looks to me like he's just not comfortable in his own skin. And that actually ended up being the case. He had lost a whole person's worth of body weight, and he wasn't comfortable in his own skin. And he really had to work to, he met the goals in the end, but that was exactly the case. And it was just something else for us to keep an eye out for. That was a new circumstance for us.
I know,
Yeah.
I think on the forms that they have to disclose if they've had like a traumatic brain injury, but this might be something that needs to be put on the form too, is if asking us, and that might be a liability because it's a very personal issue. But that, just be aware that can affect a person's balance if they've lost a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah, I know. Shoot, am I on?
You are.
You're okay, on. I'm sorry. I'm first time on this thing.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I had to. I'm a new rider coach. I've got my certifications, I believe, last October, so I'm fairly new to the whole thing. But I know one experience I had to coach somebody out on the first exercise. Her issue, super ecstatic about riding. Unfortunately, she didn't fit the bike very well. In the nicest way possible. She just was unable to pick her feet up, and she ended up getting scalded on her inner legs because she kind of like form fitted to the gas tank and everything. And yeah, it sucked, but I did have to coach her on because she just was unable to physically ride the motorcycle itself. So just the fitment of the bike just wasn't really there for her to be able to really do much with I know she was on the Street 500 when that was going on.
So Steve, I'm going to raise my hand or both my hands on this one, because that is something that I have learned this year. That has been a lesson of mine this year, is environmental incidents. So I'm very vertically challenged myself. And those 500s, let me go ahead and give you a coach tip. You have a shorter, especially woman, have you a pocket full of bandanas ready, all right? Or you get you some medical tape and some gauze, and you keep them in your backpack, your little Harley Davidson backpack that they gave you at training, and you hand them the gauze and you hand them the medical tape, and you say, go to the bathroom, tape it on your thigh, all right? Because it will save them a lot of time. It will save you a lot of, oh my God, I have a blister on my inner thigh. And then also, I had a young lady, sorry, my little one's chit-chatting in the back, 4'8", and we talked about incidents a while ago. Every time she'd come to a stop for the first, well, let's see, exercise 2, she did fine. Exercise 3, she'd come to the stop, she dropped the bike. She'd come to the stop, she dropped the bike. And they were fussing at us. Why do you set them up for failure if they're short? Why do you even let them come to the class if they're short? And I say, because we're going to teach her how to ride a motorcycle. She ended up making a perfect score on the class. So one of the things I have learned this year, and I'm still a pretty new rider coach myself. I'm in almost at year 3. And environmentally, you need to be able to connect with your student. What is going on? You tell me what is going on. What can I help you do? You know what, are those jeans too tight? Maybe go to Walmart, get you some, good sturdy cargos during lunch. Would that make a difference? Are those boots, that heel on that boot keep getting caught? Or can you not feel the shifter because you decided to wear steel toe boots, even though I said probably not to wear steel toe boots? If so, why don't you go get you some kicks if you need to? Environmental will save you some time. And like I said, now that's my soapbox, because I got so tired of seeing other coaches counsel out, especially women, because they would not take their time to understand and ask them, what can I do to help you? You tell me more about what's going to happen. Hint, hint, by the way, that's a little preview of what you guys may see in a couple of days. You tell me what I need to do. How can I help you? And you will have so many more amazing women riders, men riders, gender neutral riders, every kind of rider you could think of, if you will just have them tell you what you need and you environmentally fix what's going on. After that, when they can calm down, so many more better riders out there. That's not very good grammar. So sorry, that's my that's my soapbox there. It's because I got canceled out because I was short. And now I'm
sorry.
No, that's fine. It's a passion of mine, because I did not successfully complete my first, the coach language, my first class, because my coaches did not take the time to ask me what I needed. And now it was a God thing that I had to come back the second time, because that's where I met my mentors, and that's how I end up on this whole thing. And so it was a crazy, insane thing called coaching, but so it was a God thing, but it really sucked at the time. And I take that into being a coach now. And I have had more women rider this year in 2020. I have probably had over half of my students are females, because I've gotten, hey, my friend took this class. They said you were patient. They said you understand. And it feels good to hear that. It really, truly feels good to hear that. And so I encourage you, ask your students what you can do to help them environmentally. And I promise you, a 4'8" student can ride a 500. They can. And so
I'll take that a step further. A 4'8" student can master a BMW GSA. Joycelyn Snow, I think, is 4'8".
She's 5 something, but I'm only 5'4".
Yeah, I mean, and that's a GSA behind you, isn't it? Yeah. You don't have to be big to ride these bikes. You just have to have skill, and we teach skill.
You know what it is that if you're vertically challenged, your mistakes will show more, so I try to give those shorter people that opportunity to see if we can get over the hump. And I kind of call them out and say, listen, because you just reached, it is so important that every stop, your eyes are up and your bars are squared, because if they're not, you're going to have to do extra work to hold this up, and you might not be able to do it. And, by addressing it right up front and being there to coach them, those first few times, okay, eyes up here, and kind of get them trained that way, sometimes you're able to get over that hump and they won't have the issue, even though they're right on the edge. And other times you have to say, whoa, you're right on the edge and you're not getting this. So we need to take a step back and, think about a different motorcycle or maybe a different course.
Those are great points, excellent points. And I'd just like to further say that sometimes, not to sound like Steve Jobs or something, but sometimes the students don't even know or can't articulate what they need. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes they can even be resistant to you suggesting either a different choice in gear, pants, shoes, rain gear. They can be resistant to that, but we know that those things will be a huge distraction or even a potential liability. So we need to be on top of that from the very beginning and catch those things, if you will, before they get really deep into the class with the wrong setup, the wrong motorcycle, the wrong footwear, whatever, if that makes sense.
And you know, if you're proactive with that stuff, the student feels like you're going to bat for them. And then, you know, in the event that they're not successful, they at least, you know, have a feeling that, you know, an effort has been made to help them out, and
right.
You know, you've been working for them, and, you know, it didn't work out, you know, and the hard feelings tend to be reduced, you know, especially if maybe they roll over into a 3-wheel course and have some other options.
Absolutely. They shouldn't feel like they were dismissed or given up on because they were vertically challenged. To me, that's unacceptable to, it's not a reason to give up. Well, shouldn't be giving up on anyone, but to send someone home just because, you know, they're a little bit fun-sized or petite, or maybe not as strong as the next person over. I think that's a bad message.
All right.
And Steve, I was not. Oh, well, hold on a second. Steve, I was not jumping on you. I promise. It's just it is a me thing that I still work on to this day, and that makes me the better coach that I am. It makes me the coach I am. So I did not, if you felt like attacked in any form or fashion, I do apologize. That was not my intent, but that is my passion, is being aware of what our students need. So just to kind of put that out there. So I'm not apologizing. I'm just saying, you know, I apologize if you were offended. So,
no, I'm not offended. I'm tough skinned, but I will add that, and I should have said it earlier, but when I did coach her on, she went home, and then we retouched base with her later on that day, and ended up I ended up talking to her about taking a 3-wheeled course to be better suited, because like I said, she was a little on the heavier side. I mean, it is what it is. I'll try to be nice about it, but she just physically was unable to pick her feet up on the bike, and she ended up taking the 3-wheel course and passing.
I saw Ron's hand up a little bit earlier. Were you just playing, or did you actually have something to say?
Now, Don, you know me, I've always got something to say. So here's the question that I'll pose to especially Belinda. How many of you in your programs have the classroom first? In other words, the e-course is not being utilized. You come in, you do the level 1 classroom, maybe on a Thursday night or a Friday night, which gives you the opportunity to address all of those environmental problems that Belinda has just gone through. Gives you that opportunity to meet the students. Maybe the e-course isn't as wonderful in that aspect as we think it is. Maybe we need to do something for our students to be more proactive. They don't read, first of all, they don't read. They can't read a website anymore. They don't listen to us. And they come in with all sorts of stuff. So that would be my question.
Yes, Ron, I will let you know. I teach mostly level 1, and I love it. I mean, the e-course is great. Level 2 activities are better, but level 1 is better for connecting with your students from my 2 experiences. My idea for if MSF does implement what you guys have all been talking about, like people have been talking about more e-course, I say we steal from Don's idea, and I say we offer, if you're willing to give just a couple of hours the night before your class or a few days before your class, invite your students to a Zoom meeting, get to know them, just to say, hey, look, you know, this is I would love to get to know you as a rider coach. I don't want you to, I want you to get to know me a minute. Want to, introduce myself, I want to learn your name and all that stuff before class. You want to do it, meet for an hour on Zoom, that would be great. Give them that option. And so that way you have that opportunity to meet with them. So that is the suggestion I gave to one of our dealerships that is a bit nervous about having to go straight level 2 also.
If
I like
before-
it.
If before a range day, I have any opportunity to touch base with students, I will suggest to them, unless they're coming on a bicycle or a bus, that generally they're coming in 4 wheels, that they should fill their vehicle with every possible choice they might have for potential riding gloves, riding jackets, helmets, boots, whatever it may be. Fill it up with multiple choices so that if they come with what they think is going to be the perfect riding gear and it is not, they have options available to them.
Great suggestion.
I think so too.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a black t-shirt, short sleeve t-shirt, and a new black leather jacket on a 90-degree day.
Yeah, 100-degree day is worse.
So
That's okay. We're upstate, James. We're upstate.
because we have a couple of new people tonight, I'm just going to quickly launch a poll. And believe it or not, there's no correct answer here. This is just a what do you think kind of poll. So if you haven't used Zoom before, you should have a poll that has popped up on your screen. And if you would please just read down through there and select the answers. It's multiple guess that you deem are most appropriate. I know. It's a thought thing. Hurts my head.
Well, then maybe you should wear a helmet, Don.
Maybe I should.
It went away.
It did for me too.
Yeah, I went away.
There it is.
I don't know what happened. I've just been looking at it.
I don't remember what answers I checked.
Mine's not operational. It seems like I click on things and nothing happens.
Lynn, that's because you're listed as a co-host and it doesn't work for co-host.
Ah, okay.
So don't freak out.
Okay, got it.
I voted twice. This is rigged.
Well, let's don't go there tonight, folks.
Okay, I got a question to ask everybody. What's your favorite reason for a student taking a class? I can tell you one of mine was, and she did get counseled out on exercise 2, was because I'm an ER trauma nurse, I work in the ICU, and I can't understand why bikers want to get back on their motorcycles. So I had to come figure it out for myself.
And do you think she did?
Not really. She accused me of teaching to the test, but this was an exercise 2 that I counseled her on. She couldn't ride from point A to point B in a straight line. She almost hit another student.
What kind of nurse was she?
That's a safety issue right there, Carol. It's good you did counsel her out.
She was an intensive care nurse. And the coach I was coaching with wanted to see how she did in the next exercise. I said, no, I'm not willing to take that risk. She almost hit another student already.
Yeah, I think that was the right call there, big time.
Scalpel, what?
Best one I ever had was a student was taking the class and he said that his girlfriend wouldn't continue to date him unless he learned to ride.
Oh boy.
I love it.
Sure, we've all had the because my husband told me I'm going to ride or something to that effect, and my I think one of my very few counsels out on exercise 1 was a woman who fell off the motorcycle multiple times. And when she was being counseled out, we discovered that this was her 4th time taking the class. Her husband was making her take it, and because she was in Illinois, she didn't have to pay for taking it those 4 times. And he wanted her to learn to ride, and she absolutely did not want to learn to ride, but she did not want to tell him that. So it was much easier to allow the coaches to counsel her out immediately than to face him. So we obliged and counseled her out that 4th time.
Wow.
I had a student who, in the end, after having been counseled out and reaching out to her after that about getting back in, I learned that she was taking the course because she likes the whole biker chick look, the camisole, the tattoo, the leather pants, you know, the whole thing. But we learned in the class that you had to need your riding gear, so she's just going to buy the clothes. And true story.
Sure. Yeah, she should buy the motorcycle too and put it in her garage. A lot of people do that. That's why you can buy used bikes that have 0 miles on them.
Okay.
Yes, some of the worst students I've ever had look like they robbed the apparel department.
You mean fringe everywhere?
Just black leather on everything.
Bon Jovi, everything.
The husband and wife riders.
So the poll results are up. And it's been a long time since I wrote this poll, but I believe with the exception of the last question, all that was written is actually true. And then the last question, I believe helmet should be mandatory, is an opinion, but the whole intent was to maybe look at how we look at safety. If all the questions before that are true, do we honestly believe it should be mandatory or not? And that's one of those rhetorical questions I don't want an answer. It was just, you know, how safety minded are you? What's more important, freedom or saving a life? And so just a way to go through and use the poll if you haven't used the poll before, because we like to use them in Tribe Talk during the formal classes. There's a couple more things I'd like to quick get in and kind of get people's feel for it, because I've been working off and on the website. And one of the things that was brought up maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago in happy hour was, do you miss the forum on the MSF page? And I kind of like to get a feel for everybody on that particular topic.
Did you say forum, Donald?
The forum, yes.
Right.
Because it was on MSF page. It was a way that we could communicate and ask questions. And now it's gone.
So isn't there a forum on Facebook that is MSF
Yeah.
riders?
RiderCoaches.
Yeah,
I
so
think that's where it's migrated to.
Okay. That's the one
Okay.
I use most
No,
frequently.
no. That is a group page. It has absolutely nothing to do with the MSF unless you're talking about just the MSF page and it's not a forum.
Okay.
I mean, unofficially, I believe a lot of rider coaches migrated there. I know what you're
They
saying.
did.
It's not sponsored by NSF or anything. It's not official.
I did not go on the forum on a regular basis, but I would selectively go on the forum if I had a thought or a question that I wanted to research or get some, input on. And I don't think I ever actually asked a question on the forum, but I would read through the threads and glean what I could out of it. So from that standpoint, I miss that it's there as a resource, but I don't miss it on a day-to-day basis because I wasn't a driving force in it.
My sense of it was that it had very limited participation. It was the same half a dozen folks kind of talking amongst themselves, and could have used a little more participation, I think.
There's a forum on the MSF website?
There you go.
So somebody made a comment earlier. Was it Peter? You said something about this is the new VCR kind of thing. Is it somebody else sent in chat something about that? So my opinion definitely, and okay guys, I know we keep saying the word opinion, and I always like to say the word to the statement. Remember that opinions are like, I'm gonna say the nice word, armpits. We all have them and they all stink. Okay. So that the thing is, we have to, my opinion, of course, is changing with the times. And so, yes, it's hard to let go of things like the forum and things of VCRs and DVD players. And I mean, I haven't had a DVD or Blu-ray player in my house in probably 6 or 7 years. Well, no, my son's 10, right? My youngest. So we don't, because we buy everything digital now. And so I think it's one of those conversations about moving forward with technology. So the forum is great for search. I agree with Lynn, man. The few times I may have gone on, I could go in and search for something because I use my little search in the window thing. But if I want to connect and I want to ask a question of you guys that I want to get, hey, what do you feel about this? I post it on the Facebook groups, right? So I think that, like I said, just like anybody else's opinion, it may stink, but I agree. We have to go along with the technology, and before we know it, Facebook will be obsolete, and we'll have another place to post stuff. So,
Don, with the advent of the happy hour, you've given us this place where I can't remember after this started why I went to the forum. I mean, I know I went to the forum, but after you did this, I have real people to interact with, to talk smart. I have no problem causing problems here versus there. And now there's a face. I like the face part because now I'm hearing what Belinda says instead of reading it and thinking, what the hell is this lady talking about? Now I get it. Well, I don't know if I get it, but I respect it a hell of a lot more hearing her say that.
Don, where were you going with that line of conversation?
He likes this even better than Facebook. And I do too. I think having the back and forth and the facial expressions and the opportunity to articulate better something that's misunderstood in text works out so much better. My problem here that isn't resolved either with MSF's forum being gone or MSF group on Facebook is we can't search it now for those great ideas and thoughts that we know were sprinkled all over the place. So that's why I asked the question. And so with that, I've added something to the web page called forum. And I put the link in the chat box. If you so desire, go in and check it out. And if we have to make our own forum, then we'll make our own forum. If this is sufficing, if MSF group on Facebook suffices, then we'll do whatever works. My problem is it's not searchable. Try to find good information under the MSF group on Facebook that you saw earlier, and it becomes next to impossible. And so that's one of my frustrations there is You know, there's really good information for the moment that you're on it, and then it disappears, and that bothers me.
As you just in the moment, as you've said this, Don, it occurs to me that maybe it might be useful to have a place on the website for people to pose a question, you know, just not something to be addressed right at that moment, but something that could be brought up in either a Tribe Talk happy hour or a actual Tribe Talk as a topic, you know, just like a suggestion page. Maybe that's there already and I haven't noticed it, but
There's comments everywhere if you just use them. And then, you know, by all means, anybody can email and we'll share. I thought maybe the forum would be the opportunity to get us a database worth of information that we no longer have. And despite those 12 people that talked all the time being the same 12 people, some of the conversations were worthy of reading to a certain extent, even if you disagreed with them.
Well,
So
thank you for doing that for us. And I just want to say that if there is anything that we can do to support you in that endeavor, whether it be by doing work and or giving you money, please let us know, because I feel like you're just totally knocking it out of the park in support of this whole RiderCoach thing. And I appreciate the heck out of it.
It's all about opening up the communications. That's all it's ever been. The more we communicate, the better we are.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I just want to be clear that that link that you sent, does that mean there's a forum already set up, or is that just to get us together to see if we want to set up the forum?
That is a framework of a forum. If people use it, it will become a big forum. If people don't, it's just a dead link, you know?
Excellent. Understood. Thank you. Thanks for having us, by the way.
No, well, you know, and like I said earlier, you know, invite your friends. This is about mentorship. We mentor each other. We learn more from each other than we do from the same people we work with all the time. We grow better as a tribe by having a larger tribe with more information to feed us and help us to think. And so the other last thing, now that I'm over, is the 3 MTs that we've discussed before. A 3-minute thesis. If there's something you would like to share about either writing for students or something you learned as coaching that would be helpful for a new coach, please contact me and we'll get a 3-minute video, 3-minute or less. I know there's a couple people working on them now that we can share with others just to pass on information when we're not able to see each other's faces like we are right now. So if you're interested in doing that, please reach out. Any alibis out there for the evening?
Definitely. That's good stuff. I'm like a sponge over here.
We're posting them on the website as people do them, Steve.
What was your question about alibis?
Does anybody have an alibi you want to talk about real quick before we shut down for the evening?
I went over my head. Sorry, can you tell me what you mean?
Am I breaking up?
An alibi about?
From anything we've discussed tonight that you want to share before we leave.
Don, you're letting that military terminology come out.
I'm sorry. I've only been away for 10 years. I'm still learning.
There was something we mentioned earlier, if you don't mind if I ask a question about that real quick.
Please do, Peter.
You were asking, I think we were asking what your favorite reason was from a student as to why they took the course. And then I just remembered something, Lynn, I was speaking to. Ben Zadrozny upstate, and he confirmed something I suspected for a long time. I don't know if this is true state to state, but more or less that some of the students we get are not necessarily court mandated to be there, but obviously they do it as some type of like a legal strategy. They've been pinched recently, you know, for riding dirty and whatnot, so they're there. And I mean, it makes sense that you're going to have some people come in, but just wondering if that's like a nationwide thing or a New York thing, or if you guys actually have people that, because they don't have to disclose it to us. It's just something we might figure out. So I don't know how it works state to state.
We have court-ordered attendance out here in Washington under certain circumstances.
And isn't it interesting how some people are so forthcoming and open about, I'm here because I got to be here because I effed up and, you know, I was made to be here, and others we never hear about.
Some of them are downright proud.
Some of them are coming to go legit.
I have actually had a number of students pipe up during the DWI section of the course with their experience that, you know, I made a mistake and this is all the stuff that happened to me, and you know, their testimony about, you know, how it totally screwed up their lives really speaks more than I ever could about, you know, the risks of drinking and driving.
I had a student in one of the classes I was shadowing that did the exact same thing, and it was eye-opening to say the least. And you could see the young kids in the class just eyes wide open, and like, I think they got the message.
You can feel it.
I have to say, I kind of, I don't know, I kind of give props to them for being open about it. You know, if it's something that I did and messed up on in that way, I don't know if I would be forthcoming with that information, but some of them have been very open and really
I think
kind
it
of
takes
giving
a lot
the warning.
I think it takes a lot of courage to tell the rest of the world that, quite frankly, but I think that they've learned their lesson so thoroughly that they want to spare somebody else from the same mistake. So I think they feel compelled sometimes to be forthcoming.
And those are
Especially
the
if you,
people, those are the teachings that we can't provide sometimes.
Yeah.
That's really about the vibe of the class. If they really feel like you're there for them and they feel comfortable, they'll be more compelled to share it because they're not obligated to. But you could tell sometimes, you could feel who they are when they walk through the door, and you can also feel the attitude change when the class goes well. And they realize it's not going to be like a boring 6-hour defensive driving class, and it's something totally different.
How many of you have had
yeah.
people say, I thought this class was going to be really boring, and I was really surprised that it wasn't?
Yeah, absolutely.
With the idea of adult learning in mind, our students come in with past experiences. They may not always be good experiences. So there's, I guess, a delicate line you have to walk on sometimes, because they're not blank slates. They come in with past experience, and you know, some of their feedback guides our responses to them.
I think it's also another testament to the fact that the students' previous experiences are more meaningful, certainly, than anything that we can talk about in the class. And when we have those opportunities for learning show up, it's best to let them happen. They learn despite us, as Rita likes to say, a great old saying. So thanks for that input, Peter. It's a true statement. Contextually, almost every state has some sort of mandatory training if people do the wrong things. Some are more aggressive than others. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to know. I've been wondering. Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, I would like to end by saying I love you all. Don't take it the wrong way. Glad that you were here tonight, and I wish you the best of New Year's. And I hope next year, I have faith that next year will be better than this year. Glad that you are all here. Glad we had such a wonderful turnout tonight. Remember, be a mentor or be mentored by somebody. And please invite your friends to Tribe Talk. The more people we have here, certainly the more better off we are. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you next week.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next year.
Thanks, Don. Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody. Happy
next
New
year.
Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Good night.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Happy New Year.
Nice meeting you all. Happy New Year.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year's.
Bye-bye.